Hello. Hey, I was doing some Mythic Plus dungeons with the guild yesterday and over several runs talking to different folks. We're talking about the delves, and a lot of them are having some. Yeah, I've been doing the tier 11s for a while and first season too, and I don't find them too hard. But then we forget that it is harder for other people. So a lot of them said it's really painful to try to get through an 11 as a DPS. Not so bad as a tank or a healer, but DPS in particular, they felt like it was too hard to do. They are often going as DPS and having Brann tank and just doing pulls and hoping they could kill most of the stuff before Brann dies, since they're not actually healing him, right? Which I don't think is the way the dynamic is supposed to work in there. So I'll do a few videos here in the next week or so on the different classes and how to stay alive best in 11s, because there are some different strategies you can apply so you can succeed in these. Like I said, I've been doing these for a while, but you forget sometimes, not quite the same for everybody. So I got a Fury Warrior here, and we're going to run Brann as healer with the automatic footbomb dispenser. That seems to do pretty good damage. And then the Overdrive Pylon. If you look at Brann, go back here. I mean, he's got quite a few different abilities that help keep you alive. So I think my Brann is fully leveled up to 80 there. So, but of course you got emergency supplies, which will heal you before you die. So that's like a cheat death right there. It shows up as a debuff once it procs, because it only can happen every 3 minutes. He can cleanse you of effects, and also purge enemies too. And then he's got other things in here to help keep you healed up. You don't have to manually track all that different stuff, though I do track the medicine stacks, but we're doing Side Street Sluice, which is not a super hard one. I think Excavation Site 9 is harder. But what surviving the 11s is all about is just picking your fights. So, in this particular scenario, the teleporters, instead of trying to destroy the devices that make the electric field so you can proceed, use these teleporters. When you go through teleporters and new platforms, it does set you invisible. Like this punchy thug. Uh-oh. Got some lag here or something. It's on. Must be a lot of people in the dells right now. Those punchy thugs do a frontal, but you don't want to get by. Now we get these support bots. They are actually do a lot more damage than you would think. So if you got a class that can do some stuns, that's what you want to do. These brutes hit sort of hard. But for almost all these guys, they're not going to melee one-shot you. It's going to be special attacks. And of course the melee does some damage too, but Brann's heals are more than enough to cover that. Foot bombs you can launch from a distance, just target enemy. Here we go. Nope. They do a pretty solid amount of damage there. one tip if you want to get around. You can go in here, and sure enough it does damage, but it's not horrible. Now this particular set of mobs can do a lot of damage, so make sure you go into it. And I don't know if you need cooldowns or big DPS. It's not really so much, just being aware of how much damage is incoming and be prepared to respawn and move away. So you had a frontal right there. My suspicion is if people are dying, then they're standing and stuff. Brann's thrown out 2 sets of potions so far, or maybe just 1. I did take a lot of damage, came close to 25% health, I think, but he's got to be aware, watching the ground, and don't stand in this stuff. That's all. And that is probably one of the most dangerous packs you'll encounter in the 11s is the 3 underpin explosive guys. Now you don't have to kill them either, right? I mean, you might want the Nemesis goodies from the strong box at the end, but if you're having trouble staying alive in 11s, skip them. So see, like, you got 3 again, and our goal for this scenario is to, I think, get stuff out of the chest, or don't, just disrupt the operations. So we do that by killing guys or opening those chests. We don't have to kill those guys right there. We don't want. Though we're going to go kill those guys. Like I said, so as a warrior, and every class has its own things, these guys put up a gold fuse debuff. It does a lot of damage, and you can get up to 3 of you at once, which is probably enough to kill you. Spell Reflect will help a bit with that. I do go in and burst with cooldowns. I try to get them down as quickly as possible, but then we got Storm Bolt for 1 stun. The first stun I'm going to use is Shockwave. So that's how we go into the fight. See, the first thing Brann did was throw out healing potions. And you step on top of those immediately. So you've got those healing potions or heal over time, and you got that stacked, and you're pretty well set against most of the damage you're going to face. Like I said, those guys actually spike up pretty hard to start. And they do have a frontal in there from one of them. So. But you go in, be aware to be defensive. You got to be ready to be defensive. And don't stand and stuff. Like these punchy thugs can actually be bad if you stand in their flurry of punches. But you know what? They do that attack, and they just stand in one place and point in one direction. So, well, it's probably not too hard just to avoid that. So a good key is to be watching for those little red potions on the ground. Just keep running over them and getting your medicine stacks. Oop. As far as the curios go, so I've been using the, I was using the loot radar, but I did find, and I will test it more, and perhaps Blizzard's still tweaking it, but it's supposed to be applying a damage taken debuff to the mobs But I've seen that operation where it scans out and applies that debuff to actually be more inconsistent than I thought. Because I actually set up a weak aura to track when that debuff is going on mobs, and it doesn't happen quite like it says it does. Now switch to the Overdrive Pylon. Now that may be a temporary thing. Like I said, Blizzard I think is still tweaking things. But the Overdrive Pylon, particularly in the 11s where fights will, at least the tougher fights will often stretch for into that in combat for more than 30 seconds mark. And then you're getting a 40-second buff of 20% more damage for you and Brann, as well as healing. And that's a pretty good deal. That particular Curio is less effective in the 8s or lower ones when you're not going to be in combat that long, unless maybe you're chain pulling everything. There, take a look at that real quick. So one thing this also does is once that buff is up, and then you finish whatever mobs you're doing, that buff is still up for as long as that 40 seconds runs, and you can go start another combat. And if your next combat actually goes more than 30 seconds, that buff will refresh itself to the full 40 seconds. So it's not like the buff has to go all the way off before it can start building again. It's building immediately, so that's a pretty good thing to have. The Pacifist rig here, if you're really having trouble staying alive, Pacifist rig is a good way to go too, because while you're in it, it provides immunity, which gives you a little time to let your cooldowns and stuff catch up. And it seems to proc fairly often. Now it did pretty solid damage the first... Where do we get over there? Pretty solid damage the first season. Or beginning of this season, I'm sorry. But I kind of felt like it's been nerfed quite a bit in how much damage it does, and that I can do more damage myself. So I don't use it anymore, but... Oh, there we go. So under my Toon's feet, next to the medicine counter, you can see an icon ticking down. That's actually my time in combat there. Make sure I get the buff, and then you can go into, for instance, this pack, which I said was pretty dangerous, with a full 20% damage and healing. But sure don't hurt with that pack. But look at that. So we just completed requirements for, what is it, interrupting the Dark Fuse operations here. And I still got plenty of mobs up, which means, could I have skipped all those underpin packs? Yeah. Will you get maybe less undercoin and stuff? Well, probably. But I think the biggest reason to be doing 11s is actually for either you've got a Delver's Bounty map and you want to maximize the level of that gear. Actually, I'm not quite sure that's true. I think the Delver's Bounty map always gives a hero piece of gear. But in doing the 11s, you want to do at least 3 so you can get the Gilded Crest, because that is pretty good. And then Delver's Bounty map, of course, will give you 10 more, so that's 30 what a week you can get, which is pretty nice. Now this well-connected guy, he is actually the easiest of all of them to fight. He hits a little bit. The only annoying thing is he can summon up additional mobs. They are not horrible to fight. We are going to just finish clearing a little bit. Maybe. Oh, that's what I was looking for. Seemed like I hadn't seen extra treasures. So when you start combat, almost immediately Brann will throw out these potions. So you want to be watching for those and get on top of those. The best use of those is to stagger them, but if you grab them all, it's not the end of the world. And it's much better than letting them sit on the ground there and just go to waste and then you die. When you're running, then, as DPS with Brann healing, as soon as combat starts, be looking around for potions. Grab at least one. So I grab one there. Use your stuns. And don't stand in front of us. Now that potion stays up for a little bit. I want to grab a second potion so I can keep that. See that heal rolling. Oh, here's the other. I didn't think I saw all the treasures or the power-ups I should have. Now this particular guy hits a little harder. Not super hard. I've seen him here in this scenario before. Right before the boss, which is okay, except I would prefer to use cooldowns on this guy. But we're going to save it for the boss. He hits a little bit hard, and I'll open combat log after this fight. But use your interrupt on his cast. Don't stand in the front of him. That frontal is a one-shot on 11s, but it should be, because it's pretty clearly telegraphed. And you can see the cast. It's a long cast. So I would say if you stand in that, well then you kind of deserve to get one shot. Alright. So we got a shield there. And a lot of the mobs in here have frontals. Gotta be aware of. So Geargrave is actually a little tougher boss. If there was a mob down here, a smaller mob, I would actually tap that and then stay in combat for 30 seconds so I could go into this with the Overdrive Pylon buff, but we'll be okay. So Brann instantly threw 3 potions out. So I picked up one immediately. Now what he does is that Carnage Cannon, which is targeted at you and leaves those puddles on the ground. So if possible then, you want to try not to fill up the center of the room. So he's going to do it again. You can actually go in here like that. The purple puddles do damage to you, but if you're picking up your medicine like you should be, those heals are enough. He's going to do it again, so. So it looks like that tremor claw attack, you can actually just outrange it, just step back. So we're going to put that Carnage Cannon over there. Step back out of the tremor claw. I think juice it up is kind of like an enrage. Let's drop this over here. Oh. So I ate a tremor claw there. Did do some damage. That's okay. We're going to wait for him over here. Got a little more room. Looks like when he's got the juice it up, oh yeah, he got bigger and then he got smaller. It's kind of like an enrage then, so I think the key there is once he hits juice it up, just be aware. If you're a little more squishy than a warrior, try to back off until that's over.
Nothing old Brann can't get through.
Alright. So 11 done without too much trouble. And there was actually plenty I could have skipped in there if it was too difficult. Oh, that's a new pet I haven't had before. Alright. That's a little bit of tips then about doing an 11 and staying alive so you can finish it, because that's really the goal. Unless you're good at getting good at them and you want to farm it for the undercoin, you can skip all those undercoin packs, get around them. And Viz pots, I carry those in my bags, and I don't use them much anymore, but you can use those to get past mobs. There are some, oh wow, we sure get a lot of garbage in our bags this expansion, but there are some different items that we're getting lots of that can help in the delves, like there's a movement speed buff, there's a Delver's Disguise in here. Oh, here it is. So you equip that, that'll help you sneak past mobs as well. There are a bunch of other power-ups in here too. I don't know, this expansion, or this season, we seem to be getting a lot of garbage in our bags, so I haven't quite sorted through it all. And it's filled up the bags of all my tunes. Oh, one thing I didn't do, and I should have when I started, was when you first start the delve, Brann will always drop a campfire, or there'll be one nearby. But it's worth it to eat at it. You get a 10-minute buff, and its main primary stat, right? So strength increased by 5%. And of course, that would have helped all through that run. So to summarize, what I was kind of thinking when I was talking my guildies is, when you go in these, you can choose what to pull, so pick your pulls, right? You don't have to go pick up everything. You don't have to make Brann a tank. DPS can serve as tank, just don't pull the whole room, that's all. Stay out of the frontals. The frontals are what get you in these delves, so don't get hit by those. A lot of times those big casted attacks, like we just saw in that boss, or he was doing the claw attack or whatever it is, you can actually step back out of range and outrange that, and you're gonna lose DPS time while he's casting, but that's okay, because if that connects, it can do enough damage to one-shot you sometimes. The warrior here is a little more durable, but still, eye level is not crazy on this tune, 648. I don't think I got 2 pieces of the new tier, yeah, so nothing too fancy there. So you pick your fights. You can skip past the underpin guys if you're having trouble. You get multiple lives here in the 11, so you don't have to finish with no deaths, right? Well, there's an achievement for that, but you only get the achievement once. All you gotta do is just play it smart, Pick up those potions. The potions are probably the biggest thing. Like I said, the other thing I heard them telling me was, oh, yeah, I can only get by his DPS by that Brann tank, and then he'll die, but he comes back. And I was thinking to myself, well, just make him a healer, and everybody, you can really go through pretty smoothly as long as you're taking advantage of the potions and not taking avoidable damage, right? You get through just fine. So anyway, that's wrap up of this one. Like I said, I'm gonna do the same sort of talk and walk through on probably a healer, and then on my mages, which are, they're pretty squishy. Or maybe I'll try it on my DK, but he's kind of like the warrior, not quite as squishy. Warriors have some pretty good self-sustain, and the armor, of course, but at the same time, I can't go stand in frontals, right? And you can't go pull a whole room. And if you have Brann tank and you have no ability to heal him, then you're not really using the system in a very efficient way, right? That's not the way it was meant to be. I guess we get used to always doing, especially if we do a lot of group content, we get used to, well, somebody else is going to tank and hold the mob's attention, and I can just stand next to them and hit all my buttons and not worry about mechanics or not standing and stuff, because there's a healer that's going to heal me. But when we're doing the delve solo, it's a little different, right? But what you learn playing solo should lend itself well to doing the group content too, because you realize you can't always count on a tank to have the aggro all the time, and you can't always count on somebody else to heal your mistakes. So what you do is watch your aggro, watch what you're pulling, and then do what you can to avoid taking damage you don't need to take. Here, it's your problem when you're doing a dungeon or you're doing a raid and you stand in something and you keep pushing your DPS buttons and doing your rotation and keep taking damage. You may get somebody else's problem, but here it's your own. So I think it's pretty good if you do the delves and think a little bit about that. And that way, it'll improve you and all the kinds of content you do. But, yep, thanks for watching. Sorry for the little speech there. But I do think, we can all get better at this game. I'm not perfect at it, and I make mistakes too, but we need to think about, especially as DPS, because that is what I heard from my guildies. Whenever I'm playing the DPS, I'm just getting killed. And I guarantee you, it's because people are tunneling and they're getting hit by stuff. Or they're not paying attention to what they're pulling, or they're fighting stuff and there's a patrol walking by too close. And instead of moving all the mobs away a little bit, well, they just stand there, keep pushing the rotation buttons, and then the next pack adds in and they die. So, alright. I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.